Welcome back to another Tech Talk inside the Hypro Village. And my guest at this time is Dr. Michael Mota. He's senior veterinarian with Jamaica Broilers, the Hypro division. He's a veterinary surgeon. So I learned something new about him today. I didn't know that before, Doc. But he has, believe you me, a resume that is so large we couldn't contain it for this show at all. But just to give you a little bit of background about him, he is a graduate of the College of Agriculture, Science and Education, CASE. I don't think it was called CASE back then when you went to school. The University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, the University of Queensland, Simon Park Embryo Transfer Center in Queensland, Australia as well, AgTech Incorporated Manhattan, the International Embryo Transfer School in Mississippi, and the Rafter D Genetics College Station in Texas. Dr. Mota, I can't keep up with you at all. Good afternoon and welcome to Tech Talk. How you do?
Thank you, Anthea, and I'm well, thanks, and I'm actually blessed to be with you today. You are one of my favorite radio personalities.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so very much, Doc. All right, so we're talking harnessing quality genetics for increased productivity. Sounds like a long topic, but we're going to break it down so we all understand what it is that we're talking about. And I want to talk about what genetics, when we say genetics, what do we mean? What does that word mean?
Well, thanks, Anthea, but let me put a disclaimer in right away. I'm not a geneticist, so I will be trying to just give you some broad guidelines as far as. Well, genetics is really what we speak about in terms of the phenotype equals the genotype and the environment. So the genetic part of that phenotype is what's in the genome. That will be expressed to become the phenotype if the environment is okay.
All right,
so it's a DNA, it's what's in the DNA. It's coded already in the DNA. That's the genetics.
In business, you'd say something like ceteris paribus, so all things being equal.
Yes, that's correct.
You will end up with the right kind of genetics.
Right.
Or the right kind of genes.
Right kind of genes, but you have to have the environment
to
express those genes. And we can speak a little about that in the interview.
All right, no problem at all. All right, so in terms of genetics now, we're talking about meat, we're talking about milk. Now, these are two types of food that we as human beings will encounter. Let us start with meat. How important is it for us to understand genetics within the context of the meat that we eat?
Okay, well, let me go way back to, I guess, the 1950s with the Honorable T.P. Lecky OM, because he decided that, you know, under colonial days, we would have the traditional breeds of the probably Holsteins and Jerseys and so on, which were temperate breeds. And these temperate breeds don't do so well in tropical environments. Oh. They are genetically superior animals in their environment, but Dr. Lecky and his researchers, I think the only living legend of that critical mass today would be Dr. the Honorable Carl Wellington. Right. They set about to breed the tropical breeds that we have today. The Jamaica Hope, Jamaica Black, Jamaica Red, Jamaica Brahman. So to focus on the beef breeds, it's very important as far as the genetic expression of the beef breeds. Because what Dr. Lecky did back in the 50s, and these breeds were established in the 50s, 1950s, he set the stage for the Jamaica Red, the Jamaica Black, and the Jamaica Brahman. Mm-hmm. What we have been doing today, unfortunately we have not been doing enough work. But thanks to Dr. the Honorable Carl Wellington, he continues to do conservation of superior lines. Right. Each breed has several lines. Okay. So what you do to select superior genetics, what you have to do is to do a performance test. So the cow takes 9 months to calve. The calf is weaned at about 9 months old, or sometimes 8 months old. The bull calves that will be the future sires, they go through a performance test. So they are usually 140 days. Okay. So they select the best of that calf crop.
So it's the best of the best.
Best of the best. And then, so what you really want to ensure you have, which we struggle in certain breeds, is an effective breeding population, females. Okay. Because you want to apply a high selection pressure.
That is amazing.
The more animals you have, you can select down to 2%, 5% of the best. So they go through the performance test. They are introduced for 2-week acclimatization period. They go onto a diet measured based on their body weight. So they're weighed prior to going on that performance test. They're weighed every 2 weeks, and they feed adjusted, 2% of the body weight. And at 140 days, they are taken off. So they do the analysis of weight gain, average daily gain, within their cohorts, within sire lines, and sometimes even maternal lines.
Wow.
So it's very important when you ask the question about the beef side, because what the farmer wants is a calf that will be weaned at the heaviest weight possible.
So they can make more money.
Make more money.
Because that is what they're in the business of doing.
Yes, but we haven't even spoken about the introduction of imported genetics yet. This is just local genetics.
Oh, this is just local genetics. You said something earlier that I want to get a little bit of clarity on, and that is the issue of temporary breed. Why is it called a temporary breed? Temperate.
Temperate.
Ah, because that was
Bos Taurus or Bos Indica.
Oh.
so not sorry. So you have a tropical or temperate.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that we get
not
it right.
Temporary.
Yes.
Temperate.
Because I was wondering. All right. So let us take a look then at the imported genetics. Why is it important for us to have that imported genetics into what we have already been producing and working to do here in Jamaica?
All right, very good question. The importance of using imported genetics is that our genetic pool is small. So we have not been doing much work in terms of research and developing anything far more than what Dr. Lecky did way back in the 1950s. So by introducing imported genetics, you're bringing in superior genes that these would have gone through genomic testing. And these will be animals that, for example, recently I've produced an imported semen from Australia, red pole semen. So that semen is coming from a farm that the winning weight is over 700 pounds.
Wow.
In Jamaica, our average winning weight is probably 350, 400 pounds. Wow. So you're bringing in a new set of genes that will potentially, if given the right environment, that the genes can express itself. Remember, P for phenotype is equal to genotype plus environment. We can raise our average winning weight even by 150 pounds.
All right, so more weight, more money.
More weight, more money.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. More weight, more money. All right, so we also want to take a look, Doc, at the whole issue of milk production, because that is another area that we have to be concerned about. How important would you say genetics is in that area?
Very important. Again, you're on point. We are producing probably 90% of our milk solids in Jamaica. So the milk industry is part of a very important area. We have one dairy breed, a tropical dairy breed, that's the Jamaica Hope. When you consider the average yield per day of a Jamaica Hope at about 7 liters, that's below break-even point.
Yes.
So if you're a new entrant going to dairy, you can't start with 7 liters.
Not at all.
You have to start 15 liters.
Right.
So that's why you have the importance of grading up what we have. Some farms are using Holstein semen, and they're very selective in what lines of Holstein they're bringing in. They don't want a very big Holstein. So they're looking at there are several indices that they look at when they're selecting semen.
So a leaner animal that produces more milk.
Well, not necessarily a leaner animal. Well, in terms of, yes, I could say it that way.
All right.
You want the efficiencies, but also want the output.
All right.
That's one. So some may go the line of Holsteins, and they want to go 3 generations to get almost 78 Holsteins. But you have to also remember that the environment is important. A Holstein brought here that is giving 30 liters in the States. If you put that Holstein outside, she probably gave 10 liters.
Wow.
So you have to look at cow comfort. You have to look at all that it goes with the environment, the heat stress, control heat stress, the management, the forage, nutrition is important, the care of the animals, the personnel, the people. But some other farmers have gone the route of trying to bring in a tropical breed, which is a Girolando. And we and I have spoken in a different forum about that. So that will give less milk, but that is a tropical adapted animal.
So it will work better
in this environment.
In this environment.
Yes, in this environment.
And that is absolutely important.
And that animal will give you at least Anywhere between 14 and 18 liters average per day.
I think it is important, since you have opened up this whole issue of the environment, to segue into that. Is it difficult to get an animal with the correct type of genes, and I don't even know if I'm asking the question the right way, that has the adaptability to our tropical climate, or is it that the animal has to be created that can adapt to our climate?
Yeah, good question. Because what happened, the animal that has the genes for adaptability, usually they infuse the bos indicus, the Brahman, what we call the Indian type animals. In the Jamaica Hope, Dr. Lecky used the Sahiwal. In the Girlando, they use the Gear. That animal, and we have seen it, there are animals here at the show, at Bow Hill Dairies and Surge Island. They have brought the F1s of Girlando. If you notice, the other animals are not as adaptable. They be panting. It's very hot here and humid. But these animals are genetically, they have that gene for heat tolerance, for tick tolerance, for converting poorer forage into milk production, and so on.
That's amazing. And so, Doc, we have to salute the work that you and others like you are doing in terms of the research and development. And you know, I'm glad that you're talking about Dr. T.P. Lecky and Dr. Wellington, because I don't know that we give them enough credit for the work that they have done. And one of the things that you point out is that there's still so much more that needs to be done. Are you happy with what you see coming from our young people who are coming into the business, though, in terms of their interest in research and development?
Excellent. Also, you are on point again. Now, when you talk about young people, today we don't have a geneticist that is qualified. We have Mrs. Holness retired, Dr. Wellington retired, Mr. Byron Lawrence retired.
Wow.
There is no youngsters coming through, and I must pause that it's very difficult for them to pay their way for training. I'm a vet today because I got a scholarship. It may take probably $4 or $5 million for a master's and a PhD to be qualified as a geneticist.
Wow.
So we are calling upon the private sector,
to
the public sector, to assist youngsters who have the passion, have the interest to take on this the career as a geneticist, because there's none right now.
I think I need to talk about that in another forum, so I'm going to invite you in another forum to talk about that.
Yes.
But I want to touch on the impact of quality genetics in livestock production overall. How have we been doing as a country?
All right, well, we have been making baby steps, because the quality genetics, as I said before, based on how you select quality genetics, we have to provide the environment. I would say the greatest limiting factor for ruminant production is nutrition. We are struggling to feed our animals.
Wow.
So you can focus on genetics, but you have to also be focusing on nutrition, because they will not express their genetic potential with inferior quality feeds. And that's for beef and dairy.
Yes.
So in terms of improvements, yes, we have made improvements. There's work being done by both companies.
Yes.
We provide semen, imported semen, and other companies do also. But in terms of the multiplication, we have to be mindful that sometimes you can't get the best genetics,
yes,
because for example, we have to work closely with the veterinary services department. They will offer a permit provided on what they do their risk assessment from a country that's safe to bring in live animals, embryos, or semen. So to bring in imported or improved genetics, you could do live animals, expensive, a higher risk of biosecurity. You could look at semen, which is the most popular and cheaper. And you have sex semen, and you have conventional semen, embryos. You have sex embryos, conventional embryos. You have IVF embryos. So in other words, it's not difficult to get genetics in, provided that you meet the requirements of the veterinary services division.
All right.
And sometimes they have to, fight for us, the producers, because what they require from other countries, sometimes they can't meet it. So they have to do a lot of negotiation and so on.
Yes, to make sure that we can get what it is
right.
that we
So
need.
to get back to your question, how are we doing with improved genetics? Yes, there's work being done. Another thing I should mention is conservation. We have some of the finest cattle in the tropics. Our tropical breeds are world renowned. So Dr. Wellington again, he was strident in starting a conservation program where semen from top bulls, top lines, is conserved by collection and freezing, and that is something ongoing, should be better. We can go to embryos next, because as you know, semen is half the animal.
Yes.
And it's always said, a good bull is half your herd, and a bad bull is the entire herd.
Wow. That is, and that's a very powerful saying. It speaks volumes about the kind of work that needs to be done in terms of that conservation and preservation of what it is that we already have. So one final question for you. What is the way forward? Given everything that you have spoken about here today, when we take into consideration the climatic changes that we're experiencing, and I know that that impacts how the animals perform as well, and the work that is being done or the work that is not being done in terms of genetics here in Jamaica, what is the way forward?
The way forward really is we have to develop a critical mass of personnel who are interested in animal breeding, in nutrition. We need dedicated providers of forage, good quality forage. We need to analyze our forage. I was heartened today to see there is a display on the livestock booth. There is a farmer who is now producing wrap bales, making haylage.
Oh.
Yeah, that's new.
That's lovely.
That's new. So the way forward has to be all hands on deck, a collaboration between public and partnership, a public-private partnership, where we have a common goal. We understand what it requires for a critical mass to move forward in utilizing improved genetics, the environment, and also ensure that we can feed them adequately year-round to achieve the end goal, which is increased productivity, whether it's beef or milk.
All right, and I know that for those persons who are going to access this online, they would like to know how to get in touch with you all so that they can learn more about all that you have spoken of here today.
My phone number is 383-5153, mmotor@jabgl.com. If you haven't gotten that, just call Hypro, ask for Michael Motor, and I will be contacted.
All right, thank you, Dr. Motor. It is always a pleasure to speak with you. I learned so much, even if I'm not going to be practicing, but I certainly learn a lot. Thank you so very much.
Also, you play a vital role because you are a communicator and you are a researcher in your own right.
Ah, bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Michael Motor, ladies and gentlemen, we thank him for this wealth of knowledge that he's sharing with us. And of course, visit us here inside the Hypro Village and learn more about all of the wonderful ways that you can get into the agricultural sector. I see my partner is not in crime, heading my way, and he has lots of activities that he's going to be guiding you through in just a bit. Here we have more strongman competition to come. We also have more in terms of questions to ask you so you can win prizes. So quite a bit for us to share with you here on location inside the Hypro Village. And by the way, I did tell you about the 360 booth, so you can visit that and you can take home that memory with you. Thank you to the team from Communication Concepts. All right, and Commercial Concept. We'll learn and give you the exact name when we're finished because we want to make sure I get it right. Commercial Concepts. Right, I got it right. Don't have on the glasses, but I'm not so bad in terms of the
Don't move.
department.
Once you look on camera. No, come.
Oh, you come and take over up here and you come before the camera. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for your time. Over to you, Marlon.
We have any more shirts over here? How much?